Ladies and gents, welcome back. It's only me. I've been away a little while. I've been busy. I have been away for work. I was sat in Warsaw Airport yesterday, watching everything unfold, watching the lads talk through a dark day for West Ham. A dark day. And look, I had to come on and have my say. Like I said, I've been away. I couldn't jump on and talk through with the boys. It was emotional. It was angry. It was upset. James was definitely upset. Tottenham social media's got hold of him. But he's right. And I wanted to jump in and have my say because I'm away again from tomorrow and I've got so much to get off my chest. Like so much. Mainly surrounding the fact that a lot of people are confused why so many of us are upset. And look, if you're a West Ham fan and you're confused why we're upset, then you need to look a little bit deeper beyond just selling a player for £55 million. If you're a Spurs fan and wondering why we're upset and you're thinking, where was this outrage when we sold Rice to Arsenal 2 years ago? I'll cover that. And if you're a neutral, you're probably wondering what the fuck is going on. And I'm going to cover that as well. There's so much to unpack that is culminating and creating such a negative feeling among so many of us. Before we jump into it, please do like the video. Please do subscribe. Super close to 5,000. Happy to have so many new people on board. Look, it's more than just selling a player to Spurs. I know it will always hurt because of the rivalry between the two clubs. And look, Spurs fans will say that, or a lot of them will say that perhaps we've forced a rivalry with them. And they're probably right, to be fair. Spurs are in a position where their biggest rival is down the roads, is in the Premier League, is a mainstay, and they'll play them at least twice a year. We are not in that position. Our biggest traditional rival is in a league below us. We haven't played him in over 10 years, and we probably won't play him for another 10 years. Well, we'll see, depending on when we finish next season. But if it was just this rivalry, if it was just about banter between fans, look, I got Spurs mates, like it is what it is. But it hurts more when it's a player going to Spurs. You look at traditionally the transfer dealings between the two clubs, right? And you look at, if you cast your mind back about 20 years to players like Defoe, Freddie Canute, Michael Carrick, and Scott Parker is the one that hurts me the most. They were top quality players at West Ham. And Spurs come in and took them for excellent prices. Parker went for £4 million. He was a fully fledged England international. Was West Ham's talisman, captain, our best player for years. And Spurs nicked him for £4 million at a time when we were vulnerable. You look at what we've got in return. And this is no disrespect to these players, by the way. We got Etherington, Zamora. We got Robbie Keane on loan. And Etherington and Zamora ended up being great players for West Ham. But they pick up top quality from us and we get cast-offs that they don't want. That's the difference. And that's the main reason for me why it hurts so much selling a player to Spurs. But you've got to look at the relationship between the two clubs, not between the two fan bases, the relationship between the two clubs. Daniel Levy is a generational West Ham hater. Look at and this is summarized by the saga of Emmanuel Adebayor about 10 years ago now, which is the last time I believe we had any constructive dealings with Tottenham. I'm pretty sure it was 2015. We were on the verge of signing Emmanuel Adebayor on loan. I think we were going to cover like half his wages. We were desperate when are we not desperate for a striker? But we desperately needed a striker, and it was all lined up. And then Daniel Levy pulled the plug right at the last minute. And that was the famous DG don't go to bed tweet. God rest his soul. And Levy just pulled the plug. I think it was because he saw us as a rival. I don't remember, but he just didn't want to deal with us. And he decided that day that there was a self-imposed transfer embargo with West Ham. And we haven't dealt with Spurs since. I'm sure there would have been times when Spurs have had a player they wanted to get rid of that we would have taken. And Levy decided no. Lo and behold, Levy now senses that we're vulnerable because David Sullivan has advertised to the world and his dog that we desperately need to sell Mohammed Kudus to save our transfer window and to pay off a debt, which I'll come to. he senses an opportunity and he comes in with a derisory offer that apparently in West Ham circles was laughed out. He was laughed out the building when he offered £50 million over 5 years. That was when I went away. I come back and we've accepted £54.5 million over 3 years. What kind of negotiating is that? Sullivan reckons that he doesn't get value from the director of football position itself. Well, I guarantee if you had a director of football in, he could have, or she, they could have negotiated enough of an increase in transfer from 54.5 million to pay their wages for a year or more. And it's not as if Spurs are short of money. They've literally just triggered the release clause for Morgan Gibbs-White for £60 million. The money is there. The money was definitely there. But instead, we have advertised that this player is for sale, told the world that we're desperate to sell him, and then we have used the sales of Ilanga, João Pedro, and whoever else to benchmark his value. Why on earth are we benchmarking his value against other players? You're supposed to sell assets from a position of strength. But the second you tell the world that you need to sell someone, it's no wonder that we were getting lowballed. And then you have to consider the lowball offer. I don't know what we were expecting to happen. We were obviously expecting Chelsea to come in. They went elsewhere. Liverpool are not coming in for quite valid reasons. No one could have foreseen that, but Liverpool aren't coming in for him. And no one else is interested. Daniel Levy, the opportunist, if he can do West Ham over, he will do it. So it's no wonder that after 10 years, he suddenly decided, you know what? I will do business with West Ham. And I will take their prized asset and I'll get a £30 million discount and I'll get flexible financing over 36 months. How on earth has he managed that? And when I touched on the Declan Rice saga and Spurs saying that there wasn't as much discourse back then, you're probably right, to be fair. But when you look at the situation that we had back then, we had just won a European trophy. 2023, we've just lifted a European trophy in Prague. And less than 24 hours later, our owner is on national radio, voluntarily, by the way. He has agreed to go on Jim White's radio show and say, yeah, I'll do an interview with you. What does he say? One of the first things he says is Declan Rice won't be signing a new contract and we're going to sell him this summer. They haven't even touched down from Prague back to London. They haven't even shown the trophy to the West Ham fans. And our captain is already being sold. No official bids in. No one's officially made a move for him. We've given all of our negotiating cards up immediately by saying he will be sold this summer. We weren't even allowed to enjoy that moment for more than 15, 16 hours. We were told 10 o'clock that morning he was leaving. And you look at, I compare this with Jared Branthwaite, right? Jared Branthwaite, hot property, really good young player, loads of interest in him, has the pick of clubs coming up, signs a new contract at Everton. It wasn't impossible. We're not doing this video about the Declan Rice thing, but there's so many parallels here between the Declan Rice thing and what's happening here that we gave up all our negotiating cards. Who knows what we could have got for Declan Rice if we'd have played it properly? If we hadn't have said to the world immediately, Declan Rice is leaving. Maybe then Arsenal's opening offer was derisory as well. It was £60 million, ended up signing him for 100 plus 5. Imagine we hadn't told him. Imagine we hadn't told the world that he's being sold. Imagine what Arsenal's opening bid could have been. Imagine we could have got an extra 20 million for him. Arsenal fans are the ones that tell us that they got him half price. Makes you think, doesn't it? You look at what that deal then meant and why we were so desperate to sell him. Because let's be honest, Rice wouldn't have down tools. He would have stayed. And he would have been worth half that the next season, maybe 60, who knows. But we've had an ownership that has chronically mismanaged our finances for a long, long time now. And you look at 2 years ago, we sold Declan Rice. We tried to sell Lucas Paqueta for £85 million if it wasn't for the scandal that then ensued. The following summer, the profit that we probably would have banked there, you think you'd sell him for 80 mil, we probably would have signed his replacement for 40 mil, creates a £40 million black hole that we have in our finances. What do we do in that scenario? Well, we got a couple of options. You either sell an asset, which we couldn't do because we tried to. The only other sellable asset at the time was Jared Bowen, who is just not for sale. You put your own money in, which I'm laughing even thinking about David Sullivan putting his own money in. I don't remember the last time he put money in. And when he did put money in, he charged huge amounts of interest on the loans that he made to the club and has been siphoning funds out. He systematically has taken funds out of our club. Not only through that, anyone who's not aware, look at the sale of the Boleyn grounds and look up a company called Berlin Phoenix and then look at who the stakeholders in that company were. They bought the Berlin ground and flipped it for millions in profit immediately and then liquidated the company. Look that up for the kind of owner that we've got. So there's no way that he's going to put money in. So why on earth? I see there's questions being asked of Daniel Kretinsky. Valid questions. Why on earth should he put his money in if the chairman, if the largest shareholder, is not going to put his money in? He's not. So instead of loaning the club that you supposedly love the money to bankroll them for a year, you go to Barclays Bank and take out a £40 million loan at a 9% interest rate. Do the maths on that. That's the best part of 4 million quid. That's 3 point something million pounds it's going to cost you for a 12-month loan that is due 12 months' time. So Sullivan's known that he's going to be liquidating assets and that he's going to have to sell a player. Hence, he's gone out and told the world, we have to sell this player. If he'd have held back, if he'd have wanted to bankroll us, even for a short-term amount of time, then we could have held on to Kudus for a little bit longer. But we've told the world he's going. And so Kudus has obviously gotten himself into the mindset that he's going. So it's no wonder he kicked up a stink in the end. And we'll come to that in a little... well, we might as well talk about that now. I get the people who are disgruntled at the player. There's talk that's come out that he handed in a transfer request. There's talk that he was turning up to training late. I mean, look, it's a disgusting way to act no matter what. And we knew he wasn't at the club for long term. You don't act that way about the club. There's a number of players. You look at the way Payet left the club and he was hated immediately. He went from our most loved player to our most hated player. You don't act like that. You especially don't act like that if you're going to Tottenham from West Ham. It's a line that you don't cross. But the question is, how true is it? I don't know. I don't know what to believe that comes out of the club nowadays. Can you blame him? I mean, we told him he was leaving, ultimately. Like, you could look at these performances at the end of the season, right? And you can say he clearly wasn't, his head wasn't screwed on. He wasn't interested. He was obviously going to leave the club. But we have told the world that he's going to leave the club. And the only club that's come in is Tottenham. Of course, he's going to look at that. He's going to go to a team that's going to be playing Champions League. Probably don't even have to move house. Of course, he's going to kick up a stink. Of course, he's going to want to leave. He's been told that he's going to leave. So what player are Spurs going to get? I mean, and this is where you look at £55 million for Mohammed Kudus to go to Tottenham. We've got a chunk of money, but does it do anything for us? Not really. Like, ultimately, £55 million spread over 3 years is going to pay a bit of a loan off and is not going to help us with our transfer window. We are so in the mud. It's unbelievable. Supposedly, this money is going to go and immediately be spent on signings. How? I don't understand how. You've got a £40 million loan that's due. You've just banked what you're going to bank 15 odd million pounds less, obviously less the amount of money that we owe Ajax in a sell-on fee. We don't even have a sell-on fee from Spurs. So it's a complete mess. Complete mess. We were not ripped from our home for this. The West Ham of 10 to 15 years ago, yeah, you would have expected this kind of thing. But given the success that we'd had, you wouldn't be expecting to sell one of your best players to Tottenham just to pay your bills, ultimately. Who knows what on earth we're going to get served up in this transfer window. That's what I was saying. What player are Spurs getting? The player, absolutely magical. I'll forever remember that goal against Freiburg. It's the best goal I've ever seen in the flesh. Picking the ball up from 70 yards, galloping around 5 players and tucking it in the bottom corner. Unbelievable goal. Magical on his day. Also an absolute dickhead on his day. Horrible attitude, clearly. You look at some of the stuff he done over the course of last season. Not only did he only score 5 goals, he probably swung for the same amount of people when you include Lopetegui and the 3 or 4 Spurs players that he smacked up. That's going to be a funny interaction when he goes there. Clearly didn't want to be there. I'm sure there was a story of him saying that he wouldn't play for the club if Lopetegui stayed. Lopetegui went and he's demanded to leave anyway. He sulked for most of the season. He got a bit of a graveyard shift on the left wing. It's clearly not his best position. His best position is where our best player plays. You're going to have to, if you're a team player, you're going to have to make compromises now and then. He just didn't want to. So he's a magical player, but he's got a real attitude problem. I wouldn't be surprised if either he tears it up and becomes one of Tottenham's greatest ever players, or he has half a good season, goes to AFCON, goes off the boil again, exactly as he did in our first season. And then within 2 years, he's sold to someone else. I wouldn't be surprised with either of those things happening. What's next for us? Sullivan's clearly going to be happy if we finish 17th. Is he balancing the books so that he can sell the club? Hopefully. If in any such case, it's got to be our one united focus to force that man out of the club. He is everything that is wrong with the club. And hopefully that stuff that I've mentioned there gives people an idea as to why we need to get this man out of the club. Because how you can mismanage a team that was 16th in the football rich list just 2 years ago. How can you go from 16th in the football rich list to selling your prize asset at a discount on a finance package to your biggest Premier League rivals? Chronic mismanagement of finances. That's how. We have to get the man out. I'm not expecting anything from the transfer window, to be honest. I don't expect us to sign anywhere near the amount or the quality of players that we need. And I expect it to be a really, really tough season. If you offer me 17th right now, I'd take it. I really, like, it's that bad. And if you're a neutral and you're not a West Ham fan or you don't agree with me, genuinely wait until we're getting pumped in pre-season. We got 3 Premier League teams in pre-season. We got half a squad. We lost 5 players on freeze and we lost 2 loan players and we've now just sold Kudus. We've got 8 holes in the squad and we've got no money to fill it. Hopefully we get this Malik Diouf lad. Seems a good player, but it's one position. Emerson's going to leave, so it doesn't fill any of the holes that I've just mentioned. 8 more signings we need. Plus there's other players who are going to be sold as well. It's a dangerous time. Really, really dangerous time. That 40 mil loan that we're probably going to refinance again, you can imagine that if Paqueta is found innocent, which we've budgeted for, by the way, we've budgeted for Paqueta to be found innocent. What responsible institution budgets for £40 million that's completely out of your control? Completely out of our control. If he's found guilty, we are in the shit financially. Like so in the shit. It's not even a joke. He'll be sold and that will be the £40 million loan paid off. That's the only way. Otherwise, we will just keep kicking the can down the road and we will keep paying the best part of £4 million in interest every single year because our owners do not want to put the money in. They'll finance dodgy care homes, but they won't put the money into the club they supposedly love. It's as simple as that. Look, that's enough of a rant from me. We got to stay strong. We got to stay together. We got to stay West Ham and we've got to stay GSP out. We'll see you again on the next one.